So far in these examples, you have written all the code in a single scene, which is perfectly acceptable in a small demo project, but soon becomes problematic if your project starts to grow. Maybe you want to add a soccer ball to your scene. You then have to scroll through hundreds of lines of code just to add something very simple. What if you then decide the soccer ball wasn't a great fit and you want to change it to a basketball? You have to find all of its parts and modify it in some way to try and remove it or change it. This is a painful way to work and build games, and soon limits what you can actually add and achieve in your game. A good way to solve this problem is a tried and tested game architecture, a way to build games that makes it easy to expand and grow without falling into traps. This is often achieved by breaking the game into smaller, more manageable chunks that can easily be added, removed, and most importantly, reused. Just to give you an example of how a game might be broken up, here is an SK scene, absolutely bloated with game content. You could start by adding a little structure, SK nodes which just hold other nodes. Most people like to call these layers. So you have a graphical interface layer, a game world layer, a character layer, an enemy layer, and a collectibles layer, or any other layers that you want. These layers are then added to the scene and can take a lot of the burden that is normally placed on the scene itself. You can take this even further by breaking each node out into its own class as well. If you are having trouble following what I mean, don't worry, it's because we haven't really talked about this feature in Swift. What I'm talking about is classes. Earlier I compared a class to a blueprint for a building, and subclasses to be classes that inherit everything from their parent class. You know, SK Sprite Node, SK Label Node, etc. are all subclasses of SK Node, but you can also take that further and make your own subclasses of nodes. So why would you want to do that? Well, let's say your game has a lot of people in it. They're all very similar in the way that they move and animate. They're all using similar physics and react in similar ways to other objects. You can make a SK Sprite Node subclass called Person. Add all your code to that, then use the blueprint you just created to make multiple people. So if your Person subclass of SK Sprite Node, you have all the power of SK Node plus SK Sprite Node plus whatever attributes you believe a person should have. Maybe you wish to default all people made from your person class to have the same gravity and the same movement. Maybe you want them to have a generic set of functions such as jump or walk left. Maybe you want some default properties such as health or mana. There are many good reasons to break different objects into separate classes, and this is also a very important part of object-oriented programming. Now it's time to look at coding a very simple game that has subclasses for different types of objects.